Companions in video games are kinda crucial. It's something I've been wondering about ever since I started playing Baldur's Gate 3 and has been festering my mind ever since. Sure, there have been plenty of companions in video games before, like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Metal Gear Solid, and even God of War Ragnarok. But before going any further, I think it's good to know some of the companions video games have to offer. It varies of course depending on what game it is. You can't really have a companion or companions in a stealth action shooter. Although there are even examples for that, like in Last of Us, where Ellie just disappeared as Joel tries to complete a level stealthily. It's really hard classifying all the different companions since there aren't any real buzzwords for them or definitions of them, so just take this with a grain of salt. In Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, you're alone for majority of the game and only have characters to help you via the codec, with giving you tips and overall information. These characters were classified as companions of necessity, not really being with you in the world but rather in spirit via the codec. Eva in the game is more of a companion, with her helping you in the world with information and letting you through into other parts of the open world. Later on into the game, you are focused into a companion sequence with her, with you guiding her and giving her commands on what to do. This is more of a Rails companion and not serving any real purpose world-wise, like giving new information about the world that you don't already know. Rather, she gives you a new gameplay purpose of avoiding enemies and making sure she doesn't die. You have to cure her from the same menu that you do in-game, which raises the stakes, as if you didn't stock up on med supplies beforehand, you either heal her or yourself. Since she's not as well versed in stealth as you are, it's kind of like babysitting, since she's wounded and if you try to sneak by the enemy, she's most likely gonna get spotted by them and you have to protect her. Even in the earlier games, Sons of Liberty had a similar type of companion where you need to make a safe passage to Emmerich's daughter and you have to drop her off before proceeding forward since her legs don't work and she's a fucking child. In God of War Ragnarok, you have 4 different quote-unquote companions, so to speak. As Kratos, you have Freya and Atreus that help you gameplay wise but also serve a meta purpose for the player. Atreus, and to some extent Freya, is the insert of the player not knowing what happened after God of War 3 or before that, and asking Kratos about the events. But it also works vice versa. Kratos is unfamiliar with the Norse lands and Freya alongside Atreus serve as a kind of a wiki for Kratos in the game alongside the player playing the game. In God of War 2018, there was a segment in the game where Atreus didn't respond to the inputs you gave him, rendering him useless gameplay wise. But world wise, it was telling Kratos and even the player, oh shit, Atreus is behaving like a piece of shit and isn't listening to Kratos. With the help of the gameplay, it shows us story wise and meta wise that Atreus has changed. He isn't the same person he was some minutes ago. Atreus later on has the sword of Freya's brother and works as a companion in explaining a bit more about the Norse gods and the household situation in Thor and Odin's household, despite not being able to talk. Even later on, you have a non-controllable gameplay companion, Thud, the daughter of Thor, being another insert into the family and how she is a character having a payoff later on. And even though all of these companions can help you gameplay wise and actually can save you some amount of times, they serve more of a purpose of the lore and building more upon the world. Now onto the bigger games like Baldur's Gate 3, Dragon Age, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. In Baldur's Gate 3, you are in no way dependent of your companions, but they can sure as hell make your life easier, as you know they can deal out a lot of damage and actually help you gameplay wise. But here's the big time magic for this, as they have multiple purposes in the game and also depending on what companions you take alongside with you. Gale is a wizard from Waterdeep and is highly educated, reading books and learning how to harness power to the best of his ability. He is a strong character that is really powerful gameplay wise, being able to summon elementals, big AoE spells, and can really turn the battle for the better. But lore-wise, he serves the purpose of explaining how a wizard even works in this world. How is a person able to summon all these spells and control different magic-infused items? Even when you find something that you have no idea about, like a powerful book, Gale, being the educated man, can make a speculated guess about the power of the book and what can be inside of it. Depending on what companions you bring alongside with you, it has different positive or negatives on how much you can learn about the lore and the people around it. Lae'zel is a Githyanki that are not well known around Faerun, but if she trusts you, she becomes more of a Wikipedia about her race and what harsh training they get while they're young. In the first act of the game, you stumble across a Githyanki patrol, and if you don't have Lae'zel in your party with you, they will attack you on sight. Even when you have her in your party and choose the incorrect dialogue, they will attack you, but having that comfort of having her and actually skipping the fight is good. It's really hard categorizing all the different companions from all the different game genres, but I feel this kind of covers the companions I've been thinking about lately. With that said, back to my point, I do think that companions are crucial for story games or games with a wide world and a massive story behind it. They can be the gateway between the player and the world they are thrust upon, letting the player learn about the parts that they desire. Recently, having played Dragon Age Origins, I decided to rock the party of Morningen, Alistar, and the Orc guy, which name I can't remember. I don't really care about the gameplay they offer me, although they are very good and help me a lot in combat. I care about the lore bits that they can give me about the world, which I practically know nothing about. If I was playing the game alone, I don't think I would have had the same enjoyment in Dragon Age or Baldur's Gate. There aren't even that many companions in Baldur's Gate, but with how content heavy every single one of them is, you most likely won't experience every single companion in one playthrough, giving you a reason to replay the game again with different sets. There's a lot of ways in games to relay information to the player about the world and characters, like the open world, books, terminals, or dialogue like many companions have to offer. Depending on what companion you have might impact also the choices you make throughout your playthrough, like Astarion Sims picking the evil choices to just please their sadistic prick. What I love about Baldur's Gate 3, and I wish that they did more of this, is that if you're doing an evil playthrough, you get rewarded with a companion, Minthara. She provides the perspective of being an evil cunt and becoming power hungry with her. With the choices you make, some companions even leave your party, like Gale not being able to be with someone who is capable of slaughtering innocent people. And that's just amazing. Depending on how evil or good you are limited from certain companions. Of course, there is a bug that you can recruit Minthara in a good playthrough, but that's besides the point. I think what's most important is that the companions are not forced upon the player, rather you can just kill all the companions you see right from the get-go. Don't like Gale? Just fucking leave him in the portal so Elminster has to drag him out of there. Don't like Shadowheart? Just don't open the pod for her. Don't like Karlach? Just fucking remove her head. Okay, that's a little bit too far. Maybe don't remove Karlach's head. Being in a period now where I'm playing games like Dragon Age and Knights of the Old Republic. Yes, I'm only now expanding my game taste from Call of Duty. For the first time, it surprises me to seeing all the different companions react to the world. That's not anything new in today's standard, but back in the day, playing Dragon Age Origins and seeing Morningham have frequent banter with the other companions like Alistar just amazed me. Even Freya having a grudge against Adan, just actively saying that while you're just scouting around in the open world. It is a subjective opinion, but I do feel that companions make the game for me. Even while briefly playing Mass Effect, I was instantly hooked seeing that there are companions of different factions and what potential they might have. What different lore bits I can just learn from them as interacting with another human being that has lived on a planet or being a part of a different faction altogether. They are crucial, but I do think that they should be optional though, like in Baldur's Gate 3 where you don't even have to interact with any of the companions and just beat the game all by yourself. There are examples of companions being annoying gameplay wise or world wise, and that's why I think they shouldn't be forced upon the player. Of course, it's not applicable to every game. Ragnarok is game centered around a father and a son and how they survive their adventure. It would be really awkward having the option to just leave Atreus and finish the game all by yourself. You are forced to finish this father and son story, and it is something that the game sticks by. It is its story, and no, you can't leave Atreus, you need to finish with itself because that's the tone of the game. That's why I say it's so hard to categorize the different companions or even say that they should be in every single game, because every single game does something differently. Single player, MMO, whatever it is. It's been more accepted into the RPG games and they do fit in there, but I do think that they can benefit from some of the single player games as well. What I'm trying to get at is that I think more games would benefit from having optional companions than rather not having them. Actually taking the risk of implementing interesting characters that can serve you both gameplay wise and lore wise about the new open world or just the world and the different factions within it. It of course varies from person to person and genre to genre, but I don't really see a problem with it as long as the companions are optional. One bad example I can think of is Skyrim, with how they implemented a system where a fair amount of characters can be your companion. They sacrificed quality for quantity, and it was for the worse. There are only a few characters that give you interesting tidbits about the world, like Serana being a response by Bethesda on how lackluster the companions were in the base game. But a majority of the companions are just a big story chest following you around, as they most likely will die fairly early on and don't contribute anything else lore-wise. While you recruit some of the companions, they do give you some lore bits in the beginning and actually seem like a character, but then later on they just have this same generic voice lines. Something else I always think about is the emotional bond people make with the digital video game. game characters. One Bond I will always remember is when I played Gears of War. I will probably make a video on those games in the future, but that's for another time. In those games, starting from the first one, you're playing as Marcus Phoenix, where you're trapped in a prison, being pardoned by the general and welcomed back by a good friend of Marcus, Dom. Throughout the games, you spend almost every moment with him, alongside other companions through thick and thin, even being with Dom at his worst moment as he finds his lost wife who dies in front of his eyes. This changes him, obviously, seeing his significant other die in front of him, and in the third game, the whole squadron are surrounded by Locust and the situation is looking really grim. Having no other idea, Dom takes the fuel tanker and drives off, only to come back shouting his dead wife's name as he rams the fuel truck into the hive of the Locust, saving the squad and sacrificing himself. Even after all this time, thinking back at this moment, it makes me emotional as the reaction from Marcus trying to dive into the fire of the explosion in hopes that he somewhat survived and his squad members holding him back is just really amazing. Yeah, this was kind of a weird and unusual video from me, but it's something that has been festering my mind for a while, and how companions have so much value in games in different aspects. I just thought it would be nice to make a little bit of a shorter video about like just basically me ranting. Please let me know if this even makes sense, because I am quite deluded and insane, so my thoughts are quite messy. Thank you for watching, and if you do want me to make more small videos like this, just like I guess ranting with minor editing in the meantime, just let me know. So yeah, take care everyone and see you.